Okay. So I'm Jose Santiago, the Public Safety Media Relations Manager. We are here today to discuss any updates that we have with the Tanger Outlet shooting that took place yesterday afternoon. We have today speaking Mayor Jerry Wires along with Officer Tiffany Galula. So we are going to ask the mayor to step forward first and offer some remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll keep my comments very brief. And I'm not going to talk about the incident as much because we have Officer Tiffany will be doing that. Mine is more about the partnership that Glendale had. That was with Glendale working with Peoria, Phoenix, the Department of Public Safety, and several other West Valley police and fire departments. Also a federal agency that also was part of that. And I really want to reach out and thank Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego. She called me personally and offered anything that Phoenix could do other than what they were currently already assisting with. You know, I would hope that all your listeners keep in mind the young child that was innocently shot, and keep the family in your prayers and your thoughts. You know, things like this are tragedies when they happen. We're fortunate that no one died from this, but please keep them in your prayers. Young innocent children certainly don't deserve this, and my thanks to very quick reacting Glendale Police Department along with the Glendale Fire Department, and everyone will readily admit that had it not been for their quick action, the quick time response, that the child may not have made it to the hospital. So with that, if you would like to come up and talk about the incident itself. Thank you.
Officer Tiffany Galula, N-G-A-L-U-L-A, Glendale Police Department Public Information Officer. So let's recap a little bit of what happened yesterday from the beginning, just in case you all missed it. So at about 2:43 p.m. yesterday afternoon, the Glendale Police Department received several 911 calls of shots fired at the Tanger Outlets located near the Loop 101 and Glendale Avenue. At 2:45 p.m., within 2 minutes of the initial call being dispatched, the first officer arrived on scene and was flagged down and advised that there was a 4-year-old boy with a critical gunshot wound. That officer immediately rendered first aid, life-saving treatment to that 4-year-old boy. At the same time, he began giving out suspect descriptions of possible shooters and safe routes in for other officers. At 2:49 p.m., so just 6 minutes after the call was dispatched, the Glendale Fire Department, Engine 158, responded for initial triage of multiple gunshot victims. When they arrived on scene, they located that first initial officer and took over life-saving first aid of that 4-year-old boy, which was then handed over to the Peoria Fire Department, and that boy was transported to Local Valley Hospital by Maricopa Ambulance. Phoenix Fire Department also responded and assisted since there were multiple gunshot wound victims. Call takers advised many 911 callers at that point that they needed to shelter in place and lock down the Westgate area, the Tanger area, and the hotels. The 27-year-old mother of the 4-year-old boy was also shot and transported to Local Valley Hospital, along with a 17-year-old male who was shopping with them. Yesterday, we advised that it was a young adult male. However, at this time, we were able to identify that he is actually 17 years old. Investigators have been able to determine that that 17-year-old was armed with a handgun, was involved in an altercation with 2 juvenile males, a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. The 17-year-old male has been identified as the primary aggressor and pulled out a handgun and began shooting at the 2 juvenile males. The 15-year-old male began shooting back, striking the other 3 individuals. The 2 juvenile males were driven to a local Valley hospital by a dark-colored SUV. I know a few of you had questions yesterday about a dark-colored SUV at a hospital. That vehicle dropped off the 2 juvenile males. Initially, we were told that 2 juvenile males arrived at the hospital with gunshot wounds. However, we have been able to confirm that only one of those juveniles was struck by gunfire. The 15-year-old shooter was the only one who sustained gunshot wounds. The 16-year-old was not injured. We're still investigating what exactly occurred that caused the shooting between the 17-year-old and the 15-year-old, but we do know that there are no additional outstanding persons involved in this crime at this time. Again, the 4 persons injured all remain at the hospital. That includes the 27-year-old mother, the 2 teens, and the 4-year-old boy. The 27-year-old mother and the 2 teens are stable. However, the 4-year-old boy is still currently in critical condition. Again, this was a coordinated response by all Valley agencies, able to come together in order to ensure the safety of the community and all those persons out there at Tanger yesterday. So we want to thank the Phoenix Police Department, the Peoria Police Department, the U.S. Marshals, other West Valley agencies, and we want to include the automated aid by the fire department, which includes Phoenix Fire, Peoria Fire, obviously the Glendale Fire Department, who we work with, we train with, in potential situations that could be an active shooter. This was a singular incident, not an active shooter, but we were prepared for it, which definitely helps. Again, this is a traumatic incident to our community. We want to let any individuals know that may have been out there, that may have been affected by this, that there are crisis counselors available. Our victim advocates that are located at our Glendale Family Advocacy Center, they have a phone number that they want to give out to ensure if anybody's having trouble dealing with this trauma, that they can get resources and additional help. And that phone number is 623-930-3030. And I'll take any questions.
Just to confirm, so just the 15-year-old shot back, so it was the 17-year-old and 15-year-old shooting at one another?
Yes, that's correct. And the 17-year-old and the 15-year-old are known to each other.
Is this gang activity or?
We have no indication at this time that this was gang related.
Okay.
Was the mother and the 4-year-old related to either the 17-year-old or the 15-year-old, or they just happened to be at the mall at the wrong time, at the wrong place at the wrong time?
The 27-year-old mother and her 4-year-old child were shopping with the 17-year-old male.
Do you know the relationship between them?
I don't have information on the relationship between them. I know that they were all together shopping.
And who did you say was the primary aggressor in this?
The primary aggressor is a 17-year-old male.
About where in the mall? Can you give us a idea?
Predominantly in the center of Tanger Outlets, so right in that center walkway area. If there are no further questions, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I definitely have questions.
Got real quiet.
No, and you guys are still trying to figure out exactly what happened between these two that led to them to start shooting?
Absolutely. So if you think about it, we have potentially hundreds of witnesses and victims and people that were out there. So it's going to take some time to go through those interviews, to go through the evidence that we've located on scene, to go through victim statements, not to mention, 4 people are still in the hospital that are very deeply involved. So it's going to take time until we figure out what exactly led to that confrontation.
Any idea how they got their guns, being 17 and 15?
We don't have any information on that yet.
I know you said.
Any thoughts on that, now that we're on it? It's alarming that teenagers have guns. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, we have gun laws where you have to be of a certain age to possess a firearm unless you're going to a range or you're training, that kind of thing with family, with experts. We just want to make sure that, if you do have a firearm and you're an adult or a parent, that you keep it secured, that you keep it gun safe, keep it in a gun safe, or keep a gun lock on it. We want to make sure that those handguns don't get into essentially the hands of our children.
Are they allowed legally on that property?
I'm not sure. It's private property, so I don't know what policies that Tanger has for their outlets. I don't know if there's postings out there that says that no firearms are allowed. So that would kind of be a question for them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that the 15-year-old and the 60-year-old were driven to the hospital. Do the 15-year-old drive himself to it, or somebody else ate?
They were driven by a third party.
By a third party.
Do you know who that third party is?
I don't have any information on that person.
And sorry to drill that down, but were there 3 people in that group with 15, 16-year-old and then a third?
I know that the 2 juveniles were directly involved. That's all the information that I have.
When will there be charges filed against the 2 shooters?
So, like I was explaining before, it's a very large investigation. So we have to make sure that we get all of the information, all of the evidence, everything gathered to kind of double check, make sure, take a look at what actually happened, if there is possible charging. Obviously, you know, we have 2 juveniles with handguns causing a shooting and really creating mass chaos and trauma for our community. So we need to make sure that we do a thorough investigation before we do that. But those 2 remain in the hospital right now, so it's going to take some time.
And I know you said you guys are still gathering everything, but leading up to the shooting, was it a verbal argument that happened? Do you have any idea of what?
I don't have any information what indicated. I do know that the 15 and the 17-year-old were known to each other, though.
Any indication they could be charged as adults?
You know, that's a potential possibility, especially with a 17-year-old if they're close to turning 18. That is common practice.
And do we know what charges they could be facing?
There's a lot of different potential charges, so I wouldn't want to misspeak, but I can tell you that the majority of those charges would be felonies.
What kind of guns did they have?
Handguns.
Any
No
idea?
caliber?
I don't know the caliber, no. I do know that we did recover at least 1 handgun on the scene, and there were 2 different types of shell casings, which indicates that there was shooting back and forth.
How many rounds were there around?
I don't have a count on the rounds. My apologies.
Officer, I'm sorry, the last part about the shell casings. How many? I'm sorry.
2 different types.
2 types? Okay.
Are any of the people who were involved already known to Glendale PD, if they have a history with Glendale PD?
You know, I don't have any information on that.
Do you post officers outside their rooms in the hospital to make sure?
At this time, they're not in custody. So we're still, like I said, we're still sorting out. We have to get all of the information, conduct all the interviews. In custody, we would indicate that someone was under arrest.
About the 4-year-old that is in critical condition, can you share if it was shot multiple times or where the minor was shot?
I know, well, HIPAA, I'm not going to be able to release where on the body that minor was shot, but I can tell you that it was critical injuries and at least, we believe, potentially 1, maybe 2 injuries.
What about the teenagers? How many times were they shot?
I don't have an exact amount on the teenagers. I believe everyone was at least shot once.
And 4-year-old boy, you said.
That's correct, a 4-year-old boy.
Can you tell us what kind of weapon it was that you captured, that you found?
It was a handgun.
Just that?
That's all the information I was given.
Were you guys able to get video at all from the outlets that showed what happened?
We're still gathering all of potential surveillance, if anybody, any of the witnesses maybe had cell phone footage. So that's still something that we're in the very early stages of.
When we talk about the outlets, I mean, you know, obviously just 2 years ago, you guys had just across the street, a very different situation than what
Absolutely.
happened here. But I know, like, you know, one of our reporters was on the scene, talked to somebody who said, yeah, we followed the protocol, you know, we went to the back, we did what we were supposed to do. Is that what you guys found, is like people acted in the way that you hope that they would act in this kind of situation, even though you don't know exactly what's happening? Or if that makes any sense?
No, it absolutely does. I would say that much like Westgate, no life was lost. So that, in a sense, is a success. You know, the negative aspect is the trauma caused to the entire community. We don't want there to be some sort of fear instilled in the community, especially when the connotation of an active shooter. And this was not an active shooter. This was a singular, isolated incident between 2 parties. So we want to make sure that the public understands that. But when you hear gunfire and you hear shots, you don't know what's going on exactly, just as we don't know until we're able to start that investigation. So the best thing for people to do is why we had our 911 call takers immediately telling people to shelter in place, to lock the doors, to stay down, to wait until a police officer is able to come to them and ask them to come out to ensure that there are no further threats or further victims. So we've really done a decent job in protocol-wise to kind of ensure that. I hate to say that, you know, we learned from Westgate, but we did do a good job at Westgate. Similar to this, no one passed away. And, you know, we're all pulling for that 4-year-old little boy still. So I hope that everybody out in the community can do so as well.
Can you just clarify if the 17-year-old and 16-year-old had any relation?
Yes, they were known to each other. I don't know what exactly their relationship was, but they did know each other previously.
Was there any property damage at the mall?
I don't have any information on property damage. Again, you know, we're less than 24 hours of when this first happened, and there's just a lot of interviews, a lot of different things to comb through. So as the days commence and we get an opportunity to see each one of these individuals heal, we'll probably have more information.
Are you looking for the third party?
There are no outstanding suspects.
So the people who dropped them off, you're not?
There are no outstanding suspects. We pretty much know all persons who are directly involved.
You know, I know that, you know, just a few weeks ago, Phoenix Chief Jerry Williams has talked about how they've seen an uptick in gun violence, and there's some data that supports that. Have you guys noticed that too? I guess this kind of raises that question, given what happened.
You know, I don't have exact numbers on gun violence, but I can tell you in the past few years we have done the best to equip our officers with trauma kits to include chest seals for sucking chest wounds and tourniquets, and we've been able to save as many possible lives from gun violence as we can. And that's, you know, we can only try to plan for as much as we can and try to save as many lives as we can, because ultimately that's our job, is to protect this community.
Is that what helped that 4-year-old boy yesterday?
I don't know what exactly was used first aid wise, but I do know that at minimum CPR.
All right, thank you guys. So once again, once we are able to get back to our office, we will email you out some video of some of our officers clearing some of the stores in that area. We have some 911 calls as well that we can share with you all, and a press release in case anybody needed some information back at your individual station. So we thank you guys for coming, and thank you.